5. Apollo 18. This movie is a 2011 science fiction horror film written by Brian Miller, directed by Gonzalo Lopez Gallego. Its premise is that a cancelled Apollo 18 mission actually landed on the moon in December 1974, but never returned, and as a result, the United States has never launched another expedition to the moon. Sounds pretty good to me. This film is shot in found footage style, supposedly lost footage of the Apollo 18 mission that was only recently discovered. Now, I've seen this movie and it's fun. It definitely plays with the idea that maybe since America stopped going to the moon, weird, first off. Can we talk about that? Like, haven't been back since. Why? The plot of this apparent so-called cancelled Apollo 18 mission is disguised as a classified Department of Defense project with a massive payload. Basically, a couple of commanders are launched up into space. They are mid-mission when space rocks start acting a little weird. Eventually, spoiler alert, the space rocks are actually space spiders that end up terrorizing the entire crew. Yeah, the craters on the moon are actually homes for these mini Starship Trooper-looking creatures, and that prove alien life exists, and now the crew is stuck with this abysmal horror trying to eat them. Now, this is a movie, okay? So it's obviously fake. All CGI. That's what my eyes are seeing. But the truth lies in the interviews real astronauts have made since their real landings. The missing couple of minutes of dead NASA airtime, Buzz Aldrin saying UFOs are parked all around them on the moon, watching their every move. You know, when you start diving into some of the more spooky conspiracy legends around the actual missions, Apollo 18 all of a sudden gets a little scarier. Yeah, I highly recommend this space anomaly of a film. It's fun, it lets the imagination think. Also, Google up some of the weird shit that people say after they've been to the moon. Like, did you say Sumerians? Number 4, Willow Creek. Okay, another fun yet obviously fake movie. Willow Creek is the 2013 independent found footage horror film written and directed by Bobcat Goldthwait. It focuses on a couple who go into the woods of Willow Creek, California, looking for material of their documentary on Bigfoot. Yeah, the two stop off first in Willow Creek, the Bigfoot capital of the world, where they interview lots of locals about their experiences around Bigfoot. They set up camp in the middle of the woods, but later return to it from a swim as they find the camp trashed and rummaged through, and all of their stuff is oddly thrown up high, very high, in a tree. That night, they're woken by disturbing sounds from the woods, and the sounds get louder and more non-human as they both become terrified when they hear heavy footsteps, crunching leaves, and growls outside their tent. Yeah, that's a scary sound. I would be absolutely shooketh. In the morning, they wander the thick woods lost and confused and unable to locate their car and the path they came across. The aggressive animalistic sounds continue until they find a missing woman. She tells them that she's been abducted by this Bigfoot creature, and eventually, spoiler alert, it finds them and leaves us with that are they alive or are they not kinda ending. Great movie, very fun. Obviously, Bobcat Goldthwait, the writer and director, did not actually catch an hour and a half of Bigfoot footage. There's this monster up there, he's pretty scary. Come on, that was a pretty good impression. Come on. Now the scary part comes from the document the FBI actually released. Actual proof that they were, in fact, looking into the Bigfoot case. Okay, so we got some proof which led to this. I love it. Not too real, little over the top. 86 on Rotten Tomatoes. Great fun. For centuries, people have been hearing strange screams and howls from the forests at night, which they think maybe is the Sasquatch. Lots of tales up here from Canada. I think Sasquatch or Bigfoot is definitely real, because there's too many sightings and claims by people of authority and respect to think that it's not. You know what I mean? Cops, park rangers, FBI. Like, who else are we supposed to trust, right? I don't know. What do you think?
Up next is a mysterious figure that was recorded on security camera footage from Moorhead, Kentucky. That's in the US if you didn't know. Brought to us by trusted name in paranormal news, Paranormality magazine. The video got a ton of attention, garnering 500,000 views or so, and you can see why. It shows this wretched, pale, hunched over creature running around what looks like a downtown parking lot. What's really creepy about this whole thing is trying to figure out how big it is, you know? It's hunched over, which doesn't make it any easier, but you try and compare it to the car in the video and you can kind of see that it looks like it only comes up to the trunk. Is it a goblin? A gnome? Is this another freed house elf? Has there been a resurgence in freed elves? You can't even make out what the creature's face looks like, or if it has any facial features at all, to be honest. Like most good supernatural videos, the camera quality is very choppy. If you've got a keen eye, you probably noticed it's not a rip of the security camera proper, but rather someone recording a monitor. So it's a video recording of a recording, and you're watching a recording of a recording of a recording, so it's not the most crystal clear. Some commenters on the video are not nearly as convinced as me, your host who is easily quickly and immediately convinced by everything he sees. Some have suggested that it could just be somebody in a morph suit, it could just be some youngsters having a bit of fun, but hey, I listen to those and I offer you, it could also very well be a demon sneaking around a parking lot. We listen to all sides, and we take them very seriously here at Top 5 Scary. Number 2, Pale Walker. Coming up next is a clip out of India that went viral last year and captured the attention of paranormal enthusiasts, alien hunters, and skeptics alike. It's really nice when you can get everyone in the community together like that. In this video, a strange, pale humanoid-like figure was spotted walking across the road in India, baffling the heck out of just about everybody who saw it. Whatever it was filmed walking alone steadily on a bridge at night in Yarkand in eastern India, staggering through the night. The thing resembles a human enough, and that's what my brain tells me it is, that's what Occam's razor suggests it should be. But the more you look at it, the more you start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, this might be something else. The creature is gangly, and it has these long arms and long legs, pale white skin, and a very skinny torso. Gosh, imagine having a skinny torso, being very pale, having very long arms, and gangly. Could not imagine what that's like. Could not imagine what that's like at all. It looks a great deal more like a monster out of Silent Hill 2 than it does a person. Motorcyclists in the video are swerving out of the way of the figure, which stops and stares at them for a bit before continuing to stroll onwards like it ain't no thing. Naturally, this got more people talking and wondering as to just what this thing could possibly be. More than a few people suggested that it could be an alien walking around the streets at night, explaining why it seems so confused about where it is. Some commenter even suggested that if you watch the sky, there's some lights up there. I don't know, I didn't see the video enough times. Others even suggested the possibility of it being a ghost, which would be pretty spooky. I'm always open to something turning out to be a ghost. I love a ghost. It does seem like it's interacting with the physical plane though, and those motorcyclists are trying to swerve out of it, so I'm not 100% on that. And finally, there's the realists, who I guess we have to listen to sometimes, who suggested that this could just be someone who had a long night and is lost, possibly on 1, 2, or all of the substances, staggering home trying to get a good night's sleep. Now, as far as I know, no one ever cracked this case, so hey, we may never have a satisfying answer to this. I think this thing should get in contact with the weird little creatures from Point 5 and Point 3, and maybe they can form a weird little pale creatures caught on CCTV footage union. Like this one too. Let me know down below what you think it is. I want to hear everybody's opinions. Number 1, the Chupacabra. And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot is going to be my beloved Chupacabra. Oh, do I love the Chupacabra. It's probably one of my favorite cryptids. If I've ever said another cryptid was my favorite before on this channel, I am now officially retconning it that I have always been saying Chupacabra. I love that in the world of cryptids, you know, you got cool things like Mothman or the Flatwoods Monster that might be an alien, and then the Chupacabra is just like a weird dog. You know, sometimes it's a goblin, but most descriptions of the Chupacabra just make it out to be like kind of an angry big dog. Well, take a look at this footage of a big, angry, freaky, mangy mutt that's got people clutching their pearls and locking up the livestock. Recently captured footage out of Argentina shows a bizarre looking creature that almost resembles like a mix of a horse and a dog wandering the streets, and it had people scared. Like, it looks like a dog for sure, but an absolutely massive sized one, like bigger than me. I'm talking like Marmaduke size, as hard as that is to imagine. This strange creature was said to have savagely attacked at 2 dogs, fatally injuring a pit bull and a German shepherd, so whatever it is, we know it is angry. Chupacabras typically tend to stick to goats as their favorite prey. I mean, their name almost literally translates to goat sucker, and when you learn that about them, they become infinitely less scary. The clip was fairly popular, garnering nearly 400,000 views on YouTube, and if you ask me, it definitely looks like a Chupacabra to me. The Chupacabra is one that, I don't know, every couple years something will come out about it. Someone will discover a weird dog and get a video of it, and most time it just ends up being a coyote missing fur with mange or something, but hey, goats keep going missing, keep showing up sucked out of all their blood, so maybe there really are Chupacabras hiding out there, or maybe I just need to believe that they exist.
In at 5, Creepy Camcorder. This lost tape was uploaded to YouTube by Joaquin Baldwin in April of 2016. It documents his 1994 trip to Paraguay with his family, but the tape contained something a little more frightening. Years later, Joaquin converted the VHS tape to digital to finally view the footage that he hadn't seen in years. However, he discovered that his cousins had recorded over parts of the tape, and it got real weird real fast. Take a look. Yup, that's horrifying. The incessant dog barking, the weird children, the man sleeping, it's all bizarre, and honestly what I really want to know is which is the original footage and which is the footage that the cousins captured. Either way, it's all pretty fucked up. I think somehow the tape was damaged or the digital copy was corrupted because the audio and video are blended together, creating some warped trans-dimensional shit. If you haven't watched the full thing and want to be creeped out, I suggest you go watch it now.
And at number 4, log cabin. Now this 1988 VHS footage was discovered in an isolated abandoned log cabin, deep in a Polish forest. Though the tape was badly damaged, some footage was salvaged, and this is what remained. Only 24 seconds in and this video is legitimately horrifying. Why? Well, because that man's just chewing like he was raised in a barn. Honestly, there is nothing that I hate more than an aggressive chewer. Like Lucy, she chews like really loud every time she's eating pizza. It's like
That's a filthy lie.
The video goes on to show the man filming the door to a cabin before panning the camera around the room, while of course continuing to breathe like he just ran a marathon and chew like he is Lucy McPhee. Now I will say the anticipation is what makes the footage truly terrifying. The noises, the slow pans, the darkness, and of course the cabin door. It's all eerie and clearly, well, hopefully leading up to a big reveal. It's hard to tell exactly what's going on here because it's so dark, but it looks as though the man pans over to a window before the audio begins to get severely distorted. And at around the 1 minute mark, things finally take off. Cries of a child can be heard, and the audio begins to glitch even more. Man becomes more and more distressed, moving the camera quickly around the room, and that's where it ends. There's no final jump scare, we're just left with the cries of an unknown child and the panicked man looking to escape. So, how legitimate do you guys think this is? I mean, like, personally, I'm totally calling iMovie Maker, but that's just me.
Number 3. The Paris Catacombs. The Paris Catacombs really don't need any help being scary. It's a tunnel filled with the remains of hundreds of dead bodies and more bones hanging up than a museum, so even a well-lit guided tour with a stop for some coffee and fancy snacks would probably still leave you a little bit unnerved and scared with just a dash of heebies and jeebies. Oh, if only a nice walk through the catacombs was what I was showing you. Instead, I've got a terrifying video of someone running around the catacombs like they're a first-person horror game. Now, why is someone running through the catacombs? Are they running from something that's behind them? Running in the world's worst marathon? Are they just scared because they're lost and they're desperately trying to find their way to the exit? The camera gets a lot shakier as the video keeps going, and the person seems like they're running faster and faster and getting more and more stressed and scared as they try to find their way out of the never-ending, wet, dark, dank annals of the tunnels below. At the end of the video, the camera drops and footsteps are all you can hear. So we have no idea what happened to our first person view recording. Now, someone in the comments pointed out that something to keep in mind is that even just on the map presented of the catacombs, you can go from one side of the catacombs all the way to the other. Now, a lot of the public tour is blocked off, but there are spots where you can leave the path and wander into the depths of the catacombs, and they do not advise you to do this. In fact, they would rather prefer that you do not. You can get yourself really lost. Parisian police seal every entrance they find that isn't supposed to be on the tour, which means potentially you could go into one entrance, come back and find yourself in a sealed entrance, and you can do this for miles and miles. Explorers who are familiar with the catacombs say that the depths aren't even slightly mapped out. So there are miles and miles of just unknown catacomb out there. There are ways down no one knows and paths that could lead who knows where. Just hope you're not claustrophobic. Claustrophobic. Number 2, Candle Cove. If you're really tuned into internet horror and creepy campfire stories for a digital age, then perhaps you've come across Candle Cove before. This freaky story in particular actually scared me to my core when I was younger, like really chilled my bones. So it feels very appropriate if I can traumatize a new generation. I love to give back. What can I say? I love to keep the cycle. The legend goes that Candle Cove was a TV show for younger audiences about pirates, my favorite subject, filmed as a puppet show like something like the Thunderbirds. It first popped up on a forum for nostalgia Nostalgic TV, where someone asked if anybody remembered this old show Candle Cove. Tons of users came out of the woodwork to share their stories and happy memories of this silly little show. It was like a group effort, everybody tossing in what little bits of trivia they remembered. But people were frustrated that it was hard to find any footage or like DVD recordings of the show. Well, someone uploaded a clip of Candle Cove and it is pretty darn unsettling. As I've already mentioned, puppets are inherently terrifying, and then you mix in some VHS artifacts, scratching and screaming, and something that's supposed to be innocent turns into a horror show real quick. A lot of the details about the show sound like it was way too scary for its young audience. There's a character named Skin Taker, a skeleton pirate wearing skin, or an episode that was just the puppets shaking and screaming into the camera. Now, where the legend of Candle Cove gets downright horrifying and freaky is that someone in the original forum thread where it was first discovered returned to the post, saying that he met up with his parents and he had asked if they knew anything about Candle Cove or remembered how much he used to love that show. And he was told by his mother she was always confused whenever he would talk about that pirate puppet show, since whenever he'd say he was watching it, he was just sitting by the TV watching static. Oh, still to this day sends a little chill up my spine. They eventually actually adapted the story of Candle Cove into a TV show. I can't remember what the name of it's called, so I probably shouldn't even have included this fucking right now. Maybe done some research. Got all of that. I am who I am. Number 1, Skinnamarink-a-dink-a-dink. This next one is short and sweet and also came out of Baddington's channel. 2 shoutouts in one video. Wow, we're gonna have to cut this guy a check. Well, when you're making some of the best scary VHS content out on the web, you can expect more than one shoutout in a video. This video is very short but spooky, inspired by the sleeper indie horror hit Skinamarink. This short video focuses in on an animatronic bear, one that I'm sure fans of indie horror PC games will instantly recognize. Much like the movie Skinamarink, the clip really lets the tension and horror build up before unleashing a torrent of jump scares on you and then fading out on a blurry, out of focus image of the bear from before, lingering on you and staring right into your soul. And I don't know when else I'll get a public platform for this, but please watch Skinamarink if you like this sort of thing. If you like spooky VHS horror, that's literally what the whole movie is, and it's a Canadian indie horror movie, so by Canadian content regulations, I have to mention it. Number 6, the bonus haunted video. I know, a 6th entry on top 5 scary? What is he doing? He's letting the power go to his head. I know this is top 5, but I found a 6th one and it was just too good not to include. The story about it was amazing, the footage itself is horrifying, and I think you'll agree with me for including it. If you found a videotape that had a mysterious blank label reading "surprise," would you watch it? I feel like a lifetime of studying horror films has prepared me to know better than to do anything so stupid. Well, in 2018, a software engineer named Foon Turing discovered a mysterious VHS tape in a charity shop in Milpitas, California. The tape looked old, definitely a few decades at least, with a worn out sticker on the front reading "surprise" and a smiley face, looking like a prop out of a horror movie. It looked like the thing that has the girl from The Ring on it. Most of us probably would have chucked that into a dumpster and set it on fire, but Foon is braver than most of us, took the tape home and popped it into an old VHS player. We got the footage, and I'm gonna warn you, there's a reason I saved this for the end. Please don't write the channel and complain if this was too much for you. It's pretty disturbing. I'm sorry, I hope that wasn't too much, and I hope you're not let down. I would never let you down or run around and desert you.
Number 5 on this list is the Paraguayan Tape. So there really isn't any given name for this, but I'm calling it the Paraguayan Tape because this footage was discovered in Paraguay several years ago. The footage only really surfaced a few years ago, but it was actually filmed way before that. This footage was taken back in 1994 by what looks to be some children. The clip itself is an amalgamation of a bunch of several second long clips that don't really make a cohesive narrative but are just super eerie. This, also coupled with the audio, makes this clip extremely scary. The audio is a bunch of screams and cries and weird noises that don't even sound human. Some people have chalked it up to being the poor recording equipment, but I really don't think so. Let's play you guys 30 seconds of this clip so you can get an idea what this thing is all about. So that's the first 30 seconds of the video, and as we can see, it's just super creepy. Also, at the end of the clip there, it looked like several teens were running to help one of their friends up off the ground. So either that friend tripped and fell or was attacked by something, and it's tough to say. No one knows what happened to these kids who recorded this or why they made it in the first place. Although I would wager a bet that something bad probably transpired. Everything that I've seen here looks like all the telltale signs of demonic intervention. Let's just hope that this clip wasn't actually the last documented video of these people alive. Number 4 on this list is Deep in the Woods. Back in 2006, there were 2 men who disappeared off the face of the earth. No one knew what happened to them or where they went. That picture got a lot clearer though when this video popped up. In 2007, a YouTube channel called LH posted this clip that was presumably filmed back in 2006. The video follows the exploits of these 2 young men in what the viewer is led to believe is their last moments on planet Earth. The 2 men start out by driving their car into the woods. They pass by a gate and then get to another one which they can't seem to open for some reason. They then get their flashlights and proceed into the darkness on foot. This is where it all goes to hell though. In the clip that I'm about to show you, we will see these 2 men walking through the woods and hear a loud animalistic noise. Then something will jump out at them, so fair warning. So as we can see, a creature lunged forward at the 2 men and got them running back to the car. Then the camera dropped and presumably this was the end of our 2 lads. If we kept playing that clip, then we would have seen one more thing, which is one of the men falling before the camera and then getting dragged off. So I think it's safe to say that these 2 guys didn't make it out of this battle unscathed. What they were doing there, what this thing was, and what ultimately happened to them is all unknown though. For all we know, they got dragged back to this thing's lair and they could still be there today.
Number 3. Alien Autopsy. In 1995, a London-based entrepreneur named Ray Santilli came forward claiming that he had come into possession of black and white footage that had been given to him by an anonymous retired military cameraman. The footage had apparently been taken in 1947 following the infamous flying disc crash in Roswell, New Mexico, and showed a dead alien being subjected to an autopsy by medical examiners. The footage was broadcast on the Fox network, being hosted by Star Trek Next Generation star Jonathan Frakes, and featuring interviews with practical special effects genius Stan Winston, as well as the forensic pathologist Cyril Wecht and cinematographer Alan Davio, speculating on whether or not the techniques used in the film were indicative of a hoax or not. The program was rebroadcast twice, getting higher and higher ratings each time before eventually being made available on home video. After years of speculation and allegations of fraud, Ray Santilli admitted that the footage broadcast was not actually a real autopsy, but a recreation of one, based on footage that the alleged military cameraman had offered to sell him. By the time Santilli had raised the required funds, the film had apparently degraded due to heat and humidity and was not in usable condition. He had then recreated the original film to the best of his ability using a fabricated dummy of an alien body that was filled with raspberry jam as well as chicken knuckle joints, entrails, and sheep brains that they had bought from a local butcher. Ray claimed that most of the original footage had been lost to time, with only a few usable frames having survived. He said that these frames had been edited into the final film alongside his faithful recreation. Was this fraud footage really based on a real recording of an alien autopsy that was lost to the ravages of time? Does the supposed recreation really feature frames of the real medical examination? If so, which frames among the frauds feature the real alien corpse? We may never know for certain.
Number 2. Michael Rockefeller. Michael Rockefeller was born with a silver spoon in his mouth to a lineage of millionaires in the late 1930s. Pretty good start. He had the keys to the kingdom to pursue whatever he wanted. At the time, his great-grandfather John Rockefeller was one of the richest men to ever live. His family had hoped that he would follow in their footsteps towards the family business, but Michael had a bit of wanderlust in his heart and wanted a life more exciting than spending his days looking at the inside of corporate boardrooms and standing by water coolers. He had an interest in anthropology, specifically indigenous art from from Nigerian, Mayan, and Aztec cultures. It was here where Michael discovered a passion. His father sat on the board of a museum in New York and gave Michael a position on the same board. He hoped to one day open a collection of indigenous art in New York. After discussions with the Dutch Museum of Ethnology, Michael had decided he would set out to a massive island off the coast of Australia, which at the time was known as Dutch New Guinea, in 1961. He would then go to collect the art of the Asmat people who were indigenous to the island. It would be a one-way trip. The Asmat people he was going to study and collect art from were very isolated from the rest of the world. They had seen Dutch colonizers before, but otherwise not much contact from other people. The Asmat believed that the land beyond their island was inhabited by spirits, and they saw the Europeans and Americans as supernatural beings that had come over from across the sea. Michael and his team were allowed to study the people and live amongst them, but were barred from purchasing or taking any of their artifacts, which understandably they liked a lot and had a great deal of significance to them. Nonetheless, Michael was thrilled with the experience and everything they had been finding, and could not wait to open his own exhibit. In November 1961, Michael was on a boat accompanied by some other anthropologists, when a sudden squall in the water threw the boat off its course. They were 12 miles from the shore, and the boat was capsizing, but Michael insisted he could swim to it. This was the last time anyone ever saw Michael Rockefeller. From here, the Rockefellers spent a small fortune trying to find Michael, undertaking a search party which took weeks and weeks, but never uncovered a body. That was until years and years later, when the case was reopened, and officers and investigators discovered through communication with the Asmat tribe that Michael hadn't been lost in the water as they thought, but rather was sacrificed as part of a ritual. His head was chopped off, his flesh eaten, his bones made into weaponry. An investigator, Carl Hoffman, had uncovered all of this while filming the Asmat people. He saw a group of men acting out, mimicking the act of dragging someone, attacking them with spears, and chopping someone's head off. The footage of this film couldn't be found, but through interpretation and translation, Hoffman heard a stern warning to the other villagers. A brief excerpt now. Don't you tell this story to any other man or any other village, because this story is only for us. Don't speak. Don't speak and tell this story. I hope you remember it, and you must keep this for us. I hope this is for you and you only. Don't talk to anyone forever to other people or another village. If people question you, don't answer. Don't talk to them, because this story is only for you. If you tell it to them, you'll die. I'm afraid you will die.
Number 1. A mysterious audio recording. Clement Moore was a regular family man from the city who wanted to trade the hustle and bustle for a more simple life with his wife and children in the country. They sold their house in Toronto, Ontario, and bought a farm, hoping to receive some peace and quiet after years in the noisy city. At first, things seemed almost too good to be true as they adjusted to life on the farm and the challenges that entailed. But their beloved peace and quiet came crashing down around them during the family's first winter on the farm. One night, Clement had put his children to bed and was settling down with his wife, getting ready for a nice long sleep after a long day of chores, when he heard a loud clattering sound coming from outside. He sprang from his bed and tore open the window to see what was causing so much noise. His eyes were filled with wonder and terror as he saw some kind of unidentified flying object hovering outside his home. The UFO was making a strange jingling sound, almost as if it was ringing bells. He grabbed his phone and started recording, hoping to get clear footage of the craft, but it disappeared from sight. But the ordeal was not over as he heard the craft make a landing on his roof. He rushed downstairs planning on getting a recording of the craft, but stopped in his tracks when he realized that the pilot of the craft was in his home. Moore describes the alien as being large and covered in head-to-toe fur and having twinkling eyes with rosy cheeks and a cherry-like nose with a wreath of smoke circling his head. He was carrying some kind of bag and was leaving strange tokens in the family's living room. The strangeness of the encounter made Clement laugh in spite of himself, which made the alien aware of his presence. The alien then seemed to wink at him before jerking around and being beamed back to his craft through the chimney. The craft flew away and Clement checked his recording of the incident, only to discover that the footage had been corrupted and only the audio of the incident remained. Much of it was garbled, but as the UFO flies away, you can clearly hear the strange red alien exclaim, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
Number 5. Driveway Alien. Coming up first on our list is going to be this weird video of what looks to be, I'm gonna be honest with you, a visitor from another world touching down on the driveway. Now, you wouldn't expect aliens to make first contact in Colorado, but hey, here we are. In the video, we can see a really scrawny little creature running up and down Vivian Gomez's driveway. This creature had people talking after she posted the video to Facebook because, well, look at it. What is it? It's almost like it's got these giant, like, elephant ears flopping around when it moves. moves. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this looks a lot like Dobby from Harry Potter, so we might have to seriously entertain the possibility that this is an elf that just got a sock and is running in happiness to be free. The woman whose driveway caught the security footage, Vivian Gomez, had this to offer alongside the video when she posted it on Facebook. So I woke up on Sunday morning and saw this on my camera, and I'm trying to figure out what the heck. First, I saw this shadow walking from my front door, and then I saw this thing. Has anyone else seen this on their cameras? The other two cameras didn't pick it up for some reason. Now, unfortunately, her security system would only film for about 10 seconds or so. So this is the only footage she had of the mysterious driveway creature. Gomez clarified for everyone that whatever this thing was, it wasn't her son. It wasn't a kid in a costume, because she doesn't let him out by himself that late. Although I think there's definitely a real question to be asked that she saw this thing running down her driveway late at night, and she considered the very real possibility that it might be her son. Like I said, I'm pretty sure the most reasonable, rational explanation is that this is a freed house elf very excited for his future in the first time. Or an alien, very possibly. Could be an alien that just touched down, or could also be a Terminator traveling in time. That's why it looked naked. Gang, let me know down below what you think this mystery monster could have been. I'm curious to hear your input. And if you're looking for more scary content, don't even move a finger. We'll have scary videos playing after this one and hundreds more on the channel. Drop a subscribe for fresh screams in your inbox every day, twice a day. Number 4, the tentacle beast. Now, let's take a deep dive underwater for our next one and take a look at something freaky and tentacly. Ah, this feels nice. This feels like getting back to my roots talking about weird sea creatures. You know how much I love the Megalodon. A research crew comprised of marine biologists spotted the strange creature while on board the EV Nautilus, a research vessel used by the Ocean Exploration Trust, a non-profit that conducts deep sea research. While they were down there, they captured footage of a gigantic, bizarre tentacled sea creature swimming around the depths, and researchers have yet to be able to correctly identify it, leaving them to wonder if perhaps this is the discovery of a new species entirely. Luckily, they caught footage of this weird little thing so we can all enjoy it. The creature has a bunch of tentacles extending 16 inches from nearly 7-foot long stalk, and a single polyp with barbed tentacles cupping the polyp like spiky petals. The creature kind of looks like a bizarre, angry, spiky flower flowing through the water more than it does any other marine life I can think of. I'm pretty sure I saw this thing swimming around in the corner in one of the 800 scenes about swimming in Avatar 2. This nasty little thing was found 8,000 meters beneath the surface, where all the truly terrifying life starts to form and Mother Nature gets really creative in a Jackson Pollock kind of way. The expedition's lead researcher, one Steve Alskovich, and a deep sea biologist, described the sighting as fascinating, and I'd describe it as horrifying, but hey, we each do our own thing. From time to time, we come across something that we never expected to see, and those are often the most powerful observations. Look, I'll stop you right there, man. That sounds way too much like Jurassic Park dialogue for me to feel 100% comfortable. I'll stay where I am, you stay where you are, we'll stay in each other's lanes. Number 3, Croatian stalker. Do you ever feel like someone might be watching you? I know I do, quite a lot, although it could be because someone is watching me right now, you're watching me right now, but I also just mean in my day-to-day. It's spine-chilling to imagine that somebody's following you without you realizing for gosh knows what and trailing you around, preventing you from feeling safe. This next video, appropriately and concisely titled Croatian Stalking Tape, is a footage of 2 men recording themselves being pursued by a masked stranger. And according to the uploader, this was the last time either of them were ever seen. The video was uploaded not by anyone in the video, but rather a third party who somehow got a hold of it. And the only evidence we can find for it is that he claims it was recorded in 2005 and is a piece of evidence in a missing persons case for these 2 individuals. In the video, we can clearly see the 2 friends initially enjoying a night on the town together when they're apprehended by a very strange man wearing a sack over his head. You know, normal stuff. At first, the sack-clad man appears, well, I don't want to say friendly per se, but he's not outwardly hostile. Just bizarre, slouching and bending and walking in a way that kind of intones that either it's not a human or it's a human who's had a really long night. The 2 friends then try their best to elude the pursuer, who does not seem keen on letting them go. They try to lose him by making their way to a hotel lobby, where they proceed to call for an elevator to try and find some respite from their stalker, only for the elevator door to open and show them the last thing they could have ever wanted to see, as they are face to face with the sack man and the doors close. If the video uploader is to be believed, this could really be the last thing they ever saw. It was hard to try and find any more information about this video. I did some digging, but I couldn't get any solid answers as to where this came from, who these people were, and if they really went missing. There's some speculation that it could be a very elaborate fake, which is always a possibility. Let me know if anybody's got any intel on this one. Number 2, video dating. Hey, dating is hard. We've all been there. Let me tell you, since that Dahmer show dropped on Netflix, it's not been easy for me. In today's world, it can be so hard to meet that perfect match, especially if you're on the brink of sanity. This video, uploaded and titled Video Dating Tape, was allegedly found in the VCR purchased at a car boot sale, which, if you're not familiar with that term, it's kind of like an English flea market where you sell stuff out of your cars. The VHS is a low-quality clip of someone innocently enough trying to prevent themselves for a video dating service. It starts with a 36-year-old man, Tony, kind of awkwardly explaining what he's all about. You know how they go. We've all been there. Where it starts to get unsettling, though, is the discordant screaming that we can hear in the background. And the guy in the video seems like he's mentally degrading very fast.
Someone that can
He starts smacking himself in the head in frustration, tripping over his words, and accidentally revealing probably a lot more than he means to. Especially when he starts to say funny, flirty little things like, "I'm looking for someone who doesn't mind disappearing for a long time," and cute little sweet nothings like, "I'm looking for someone who likes a long walk on the beach and someone I can spend the rest of their life with." Now the video is almost too perfect, you know? And the only thing that makes you wonder if maybe it's not a fake is just how convincingly creepy this 36-year-old bachelor is acting. If anyone has got some answers for this one, please let me know, because this one really did send a chill down my spine trying to watch it. And hey, if anyone wants, at the end of the video, Tony left his address if you'd like to reach out to him, if you like pina coladas getting caught in the rain and want to spend the rest of your life with him. Number 1, Sad Satan. Sad Satan is a deeply mysterious lost video game allegedly emanating from the dark web, and it's wrapped in intrigue and controversy and has all the makings of a great classic internet urban legend. The game first came into the mainstream when the owner of the now defunct Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel was sent a link to this strange game, with the sender saying that they found it on a deep web page where users could post random files. The actual game's contents are deeply disturbing and unsettling. It truly feels like something you were never meant to see. There's not a whole lot of depth to the gameplay. It just features the player wandering down maze after maze of monochromatic hallways. A strange audio plays all around you from all sorts of sources, like an old Swedish number station, disembodied, blood-curdling screams. In some versions of the game, there are enemies that appear to be ghostly children figures standing in the maze with you. Images flash repeatedly through the gameplay, featuring pictures of notorious criminals. Audio from recordings of criminals like Charles Manson can be heard and seen. The game ends rather abruptly. If you run into any of the haunted children in the game, they'll end you and the game will be over. The mystery behind Sad Satan is arguably bigger than the game itself. Where did it come from? To date, no one truly knows who developed it or why or what their intentions even were. After the game became big thanks to the Obscure Horror Corner, there was a drove of interest in the game, leading to sinister double copies being passed around online masquerading as the real one. And these variants would include things like illegal content inside the game or dangerous malware, as users had reported that their computers would act sluggish or even outright shut down irreversibly after downloading the widely released copy. The Obscure Horror channel shut down after Sad Satan started to get attention, leading to a ton of speculation there. Was the original uploader of the video the creator of the game and he was trying to garner some sort of viral reputation for it? Or did he feel some sort of guilt or responsibility for getting this game out into the mainstream? It's been years and we're still no closer to getting any of the answers on this. Number 5, I want a toy. Coming up first on our list today is going to be this creepy VHS tape uploaded to YouTube, I Want a Toy.mp4. It's been circulating around the net for a bit, and maybe you've actually seen it before if you've got your nose to the grindstone vis-a-vis scary videos like yours truly. This video was uploaded to a channel called Baddington and is said to have been discovered on a lost VHS tape and has left people with a real uneasy feeling in their stomach afterwards, and not just from watching all that static. The video itself, it's only about 5 minutes long, but those 5 minutes are more than enough to make your skin crawl and your hair stand on end. I'm burpy. The footage is grainy and distorted, making it difficult to discern what exactly it is you're even watching. It feels like a staticky nightmare, like something you kind of remember but can't quite focus on. It's like a recording of a TV show you've never heard of or seen before, aimed at what looks like preschoolers or kindergartners. There's a puppet that looks like he's probably pretty good friends with Annabelle and the puppet from Saw, and he's sitting singing his lovely, horrifying rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for You. Horrifying puppets and slowed down scary nursery rhymes. Is there a better combination in scary videos? If that wasn't enough for you though, things get a lot worse when our scary puppet friend seems to start degrading as the quality of the video degrades. His eyes vanish, and the camera cuts to our little wooden pal saying how badly he wants a toy. He's been a good boy. I don't know. I gotta be honest, Haunted Puppet, I'll see what I can do, but I can't guarantee nothing. It might be best to keep a bit of distance between us, you and I. Now, if you enjoyed this kind of stuff, and I definitely do, that's why I made a list of it, I definitely recommend you toss Baddington a subscribe. They're a very good content creator. If you like content like this, there is a lot of haunted VHS stuff on that channel. But if you're looking for more than haunted VHS stuff, analog or digital, Top 5 Scary has it all. From stories of hauntings, Halloween movies, cryptids, conspiracies, true crime, and more, we've got a little something to scare everybody. So hit subscribe and that bell and don't miss a single scream. But take it slow, okay? Make sure you watch the rest of this video. Number 4, grave robbing for morons. Do you wish you had a few extra bucks? A little side hustle to help you make a few dollars in between checks in these trying times? I know I do. Maybe you just need a hobby that can also make you a little money on the side, a little passive income. Maybe something fun like selling old clothes on Depop, or I don't know, something outdoorsy like grave robbing. Luckily, there's an instructional video you have just got to see. That's our next entry, grave robbing for morons. The video itself is a how-to guide for individuals interested in grave robbing. It provides step-by-step instructions on how to locate and dig up graves, as well as helpful little tips for avoiding detection by the authorities. Now, the video does kind of seem like it might be a joke. It's presented kind of humorous, you know, there's some funny graphics and sarcastic commentary. People for a long time have wondered if the video is real, if this guy's really confessing to a criminal act, or if he's just doing a joke in poor taste. Grave robbing is definitely pretty illegal, but it's also one of those things that's considered like, I don't know, highly immoral, blasphemous, if that's your sort of thing. It's fine to grave rob if you're in like a video game and you're taking Viking gold out of an old crypt, but it's a little bit different when you're cracking open coffins in real life, I would say. Now, some people argue that the video it's just a work of satire, it's just a joke, and you shouldn't put too much stock into a weird video uploaded to YouTube, and that the video might just be a commentary on the whole absurdity of grave robbing as a whole, and this is to discourage people from engaging in the practice. Regardless of whether or not you think it's real or not, it's definitely got a lot of us talking, so it's definitely a videotape that maybe none of us should have watched. Some people believe it should be banned, while others believe it should be protected. That's all I gotta say about that.
Number 3, Bill Ramsey. Okay, so these Warrens have covered it all. Ghosts, demons, succubuses, even vampires. I'd love to see a good vampire movie, you know? Just Juan takes it into his universe. I'd love to see it. But werewolves? Like, for real? No way. In the 80s, they were fascinated with this werewolf legend, so Lorraine and Ed Warren traveled across the world in search of a real-life wolf man. They watched a television program, Sightings, in which police officer and locals got interviewed about their encounters with a local werewolf, Bill Ramsey, in London, England. Bill himself was questioned about his abilities to take on men twice his size with ease, as he would rampage through the city, blacking out. Lorraine felt a strange connection to him after this, and after a short trip to London, she found Bill Ramsey's whereabouts. Through British police departments, Lorraine made contact. Lorraine and Ed discovered that unlike most werewolf folklore, he does not change physically every moon, or it wasn't a bite that originally caused him to transform. Bill Ramsey, according to Lorraine, was possessed by an evil wolf spirit and needed help with a full-blown exorcism. The Warrens brought Bill back to Connecticut to meet Bishop Robert McKenna of Our Lady of the Rosary Catholic Church, and he agreed to perform an exorcism for Bill. The exorcism was a success, and thanks to everyone, today Bill lives a pretty normal life. I'd hope so. This is terrifying. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, if that came to theaters, it would probably slap and horrify at the same time. Good problems, you know? Number 2, Japan tour. In the mid-1990s, Ed and Lorraine found themselves overseas in Japan, visiting Nagoya and Tokyo with a team of translators for a small tour of where Ed was stationed in World War II. And of course, some hauntingly terrifying demonic run-ins. First day, they went to see these haunted tunnels. Second day, they have haunted house run-ins with headless samurai. And thirdly, they witness and help out with a full-blown exorcism. Yeah, talk about a busy week. It's like a Warren 3-in-1 package deal. Their first day consisted of visiting a set of condo buildings apparently riddled with a ghost infestation. Beheaded samurai soldiers haunt the hallways, a ghostly couple and the woman ghost of the gallows haunt the premises. The second night, they visited a haunted salt mine tunnel. Ed said it was the scariest place he had ever been to. The tunnel had buried some odd 200 people alive when an avalanche caved miners in. Ouch. The third night consisted of this. That's right, a very, very unsettling, real exorcism. Okay, yeah, I'm not sleeping tonight at all. The Warrens sat in on 3 high priests of knowledge and spirituality known as disciples as they watched an apparent snake demon slither its way out of a person before their very eyes. And of course, this footage of a young woman speaking in not her first language, but tongues. Just moaning in agony. It's kind of hard to watch all that demonicness. Spooky level? 10 out of 10, 100%. And the number 1 spot, Maurice Theroux. And we come to Maurice. This one is terrifying on its own. It doesn't need a 3D movie follow-up. Maurice Theroux began to notice young. He was able to do things that no other man is capable of. Superhuman strength, knowledge of more than his academia showed. He was different. He worked around New England for years doing odd jobs and yet suffering through several relationships. After a physical examination and psychological test failed to bring any solution to the situation, the Warrens were finally called in. The Warrens were gaining popularity as a paranormal aid and had already worked on several cases. The activity ranged from low-level poltergeist activity to this aggressive physical demonic attack stuff. Apparently one night while trying to recite the Hail Mary to make the possession stop, Maurice became so violent he even tried to choke out his own wife. The Warrens made the decision that this was not a normal haunting but a possession and would need the help from Bishop Robert McKenna, who agreed to perform an exorcism. After examining Maurice, Bishop McKenna performed the ritual right away. Dude, that's terrifying. He's just staring off like a reptile. Apparently the demon identified itself simply as, quote, "I am what I am." And also, of course, invoking the kingdom, referring to demons from the legions of evil type stuff. The exorcism was successful, thank God. A young French-Canadian character appears in The Nun, and is supposedly loosely based on the real Maurice, who the Warrens actually think might have been possessed by the devil himself. What do you think?
Number 5. The plane crash of Halloween 1999. On October 31st, 1999, Egypt Air Flight 990 was making its regularly scheduled flight from Los Angeles to Cairo, with a scheduled layover in New York City. On the flight were 14 crew members and 203 passengers from all over the world. A half hour after leaving New York, while flying above international waters, the plane suddenly took a dive, falling towards the ocean at a rate of 39,000 feet per minute. The plane then entered a steep climb to try and recover before diving again and crashing into the Atlantic Ocean, 60 miles south of Nantucket Island. All 217 people on board were killed. Lacking the resources to mount an investigation themselves, the Egyptian government asked the American government to handle the investigation on their behalf to determine what had caused this fatal crash. Several theories were given as to the cause, such as mechanical failure or user error. A terrible new light was shone on the case once the investigators made the dive into the ocean to investigate the crash site. They didn't find much in the way of human remains, as the impact of the crash had eviscerated the passengers beyond recognition, prompting the investigators to have to use DNA recovered to identify the passengers and crew. While investigating the ocean floor, the divers managed to find the cockpit voice recorder intact. When they listened to the audio recording in time with the flight data record, which showed which buttons and levers had been used during the incident, they learned that the captain had excused himself to go to the washroom, leaving the first officer in charge of flying the plane. 30 seconds later, the first officer said the phrase, "I rely on God," before disengaging the autopilot and repeating the phrase and reducing the engine throttle to idle, and putting the plane into a nosedive, and repeating the phrase "I rely on God" over and over again until the captain can be heard returning to the cockpit, screaming and demanding to know what's happening, and trying to get the officer away from the engine controls. The flight control data showed that the pilot tried to pull the plane up using his controls, but that the first officer continued to push his down and caused the plane to crash. The Egyptian government disputed the evidence and labeled the incident an accident, but it was later learned that the first officer had recently been reprimanded for misconduct and had found out that he was going to be demoted by the chief of Egypt Air's pilot group, who was also aboard the flight. Although the official crash does not state the reason for the crash beyond a vague mention of improper operation, it is difficult to listen to the black box tape and think that this was anything other than an intentional crash.
Number 4. The Dyatlov Pass. The Dyatlov Pass incident is one of the most bizarre, unexplained mysteries of the 21st century, and should be enough to chill you to your core. A few photos were recovered from the incident, but none of them really were any aid into uncovering what truly happened that trip on Mount Torton in the north of Soviet Russia. The last photo ever taken of the group shows them marching forward, triumphantly, yet unknowingly into their demise. In 1959, 9 hikers set out to climb a mountain range together as part of an expedition. Their leader, Igor Alexeyevich Dyaltov, organized the outing as a fun thing to do with some friends. He'd promised that he would send a letter back to his sporting club with a photo of them at the peak of the mountain when they got there. Unfortunately, neither would ever come to pass. It became very apparent that the hikers were taking much longer to return than they were supposed to, with weeks passing without anyone making any contact whatsoever, prompting the Russian authorities to launch a search party in an effort to find them. This would end up taking months of foraging through the wilderness before eventually finding the remains of the hikers and uncovering one of the most baffling mysteries. The group were found in a few clusters, not all in one place. Some of them had been found huddled together in a cave. Some of them had been found naked, face down in the snow, outside of a tent that had been cut open from the inside, with scattered boots, coats, and gear strewn all around. Concerningly, some of the bodies had been damaged in inexplicable ways, with their eyes and tongues being cut out, whereas others had such intense physical trauma that coronary reports said it seemed as if they'd been struck by cars. On some of the bodies recovered, personal affects from other hikers in the group were found, like torn bits of fabric or clothing or small trinkets. But perhaps most puzzling of all these strange details is that there was trace amounts of radiation discovered on some of the bodies. Just about every single piece of evidence for the Dyatlov Pass incident only serves to confuse more, like a box of puzzle pieces that just don't fit together. Now, something like this is just rife for conspiracy. I imagine I told you about it now and you're already trying to put it together in your head. The more grounded theories suggest that it could have been an avalanche that disrupted the hikers, and the naked ones had torn their clothes off in a rush, perhaps, or maybe a symptom of hypothermia, where an extreme symptom shows that as the body reaches a death state, you feel warmer and warmer. The hole in this theory, though, is that the area was not well known for avalanches, and also the hikers were all fairly experienced, who were unlikely to make such an amateur mistake camping in a site known for avalanches. The more extreme conspiracies suggest that there was some kind of cryptid attack like a Yeti, or even government testing. Some have offered the idea that the trace amounts of radiation might have been proof that the Russian government was testing some sort of top secret weapon. Some have offered that maybe some bizarre mind control program went wrong and caused the group to turn on each other. In the end, the case was closed, and the government ruled that the hiker's death was some sort of natural force, sort of as a stand-in for a real answer. The case would eventually be reopened in 2019, but once again the Russian government deduced with all the information they had that they believe it to be an avalanche of some sort. But whether or not that's truly what happened, we may never know. That lies with the hikers.
Number 3. The Haunting in Connecticut. The Haunting in Connecticut is the first of the Warren universe of horror and is based on all real cases and points. A 2009 gem, it accounts the horrific paranormal case of the Snedekers, who moved into a ghost-infested house in Southington, Connecticut. Carmen and Alan Snedeker, their 3 sons, their daughter, and 2 nieces, all unwillingly now pray for the other side. The eldest Snedeker son unfortunately was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and the family moved to Connecticut to be closer to the doctors. What they weren't initially aware of was that the home they were renting was once a funeral parlor. Yeah, tools and bloody furniture just lay as they once did, untouched. Mom notices items going missing. That's just the start. The children start to see strange people in their home at night, specifically a man with long black hair. Their son's drastic personality change, which included violent outbursts and attacks on his family, was then diagnosed with schizophrenia. No one was convinced, though. It was agreed that maybe he was becoming a victim to the house's grim history after all. After weeks in the home to get the full demonic experience, the Warrens came to the conclusion that the morticians that worked on the home previously had practiced some abysmally sinister acts on the lifeless body. bodies, deepening the home in a twisted, dark origin. After Ed and Lorraine were called in to clean it up, an exorcism or two and the house finally became a home again. The case can be reimagined in 2009's Haunting in Connecticut, where the story follows the truth the Snedekers experienced all those years ago. It's pretty scary, yeah. Number 2, The Nun, the 2018 spin-off film and prequel to The Conjuring 2. A demon nun channeling an evil spirit named Valak. The Nun serves as an origin story of sorts within the Warren universe. Sister Irene and priest Father Burke travel to investigate a monastery in 1952 Romania after the Vatican learns of an accident and summons the father to investigate. According to the Lesser Key of Solomon from the 17th century, Valak is the Grand President of Hell. Valak's look in both films were inspired by an experience Lorraine had shortly after investigating the Amityville horror house in 1976. Lorraine was at home in her bed reading when she felt a presence. She saw a black whirlwind of dark mass enter the room. It was like a vortex. Lorraine prayed to be released from the forces of evil. She told it, "Leave and go back where you came from," over and over again. It vanished, but she never forgot. And cue scary movie. Yeah, apparently while investigating the once very haunted Borley Rectory, the most haunted spot in the UK, Lorraine had a run-in with a sinister nun. They ended up coming face to face with the churchyard's ghost, who was, according to lore, a nun buried alive behind the brick walls of the convent centuries ago after having an affair. Apparently Ed took photos on his camera of the Borley Rectory ghosts as they encountered them. Quote, "It was pitch black and there were no lit candles or lights. Photographers snapped photos on a 35mm camera with infrared film. When they developed the images, what appeared to be a spectral nun was seen walking down the aisle praying." And number 1, part 2, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Sounds like a lame Satanist excuse, doesn't it? Actually, now a term of phrase pleaded before a court of law. Yeah, who knew? Could possession under demonic circumstances prove innocence over acts performed while under? This is the 8th installment of the Conjuring universe. The plot is as follows. It's 1981. Ed and Lorraine documented the exorcism of 8-year-old David Glatzel, attended by his family, his sister Debbie, her boyfriend Arn Johnson, and Father Gordon of Connecticut. During the exorcism, Arn invites the demon to enter his body instead of remaining in the boy's. The family, including the Warrens, witnessed the demon transport itself from David's body to Arn's body while he suffers from a heart attack and is taken to the hospital unconscious. Arn and Debbie return home, but Arn is left feeling a little unwell and eventually ends up murdering his landlord, stabbing him 22 times due to this demonic possession. Yeah, sounds pretty terrifying, doesn't it? His case becomes the first American murder trial to claim demonic possession as a defense. Well, sorry to break it to you, but this is literally a play-by-play of the events that actually happened. Yeah, maybe not shot for shot, movie style, but the script and skeleton was there for sure. Arn was subsequently convicted after a messy murder trial, though he served only 5 years of a 10 to 20 year sentence. The case was huge. It attracted huge media attention and in fact was the first in history of the US claiming the paranormal as a defense. The couple went on to marry each other, and tell their story as the Warren side as well. Books, documentaries, and eventually this huge film universe. Yo, all of this just got way more scary, right? Like, I gotta rewatch all 8 parts. Who am I kidding? I'm not gonna watch them. I watch horror movies like this, you know?
Number 5, the Roswell autopsy. Perhaps one of the most famous pieces of lost alien footage is the infamous Roswell autopsy tape. Maybe you've heard of it. If you're a UFO enthusiast like me, no doubt it's come up before at some point. Roswell was kind of the birthplace of UFO mania, where a lot of the first conspiracy theories and a lot of the public ideas we have about aliens really stem from. If you don't know somehow, the story goes that an alien craft crash landed in Roswell, New Mexico, where it was swiftly apprehended by shadowy government agents looking to pull a curtain over the whole thing. Reverse engineered, studied, down to the pilot of the craft, recovered by FBI scientists. Almost immediately after, hushed whispers and rumors of a recorded alien autopsy set conspiracists and enthusiasts' mind ablaze in equal measures. Recorded footage of an alien body being dissected would be undeniable proof with world-shattering consequences, and would probably make for some pretty good ratings. Well, the Fox network would agree with you, because in 1995, the footage was broadcasted on Fox, presented by legendary thespian and #1 guy to trust in regards to human-alien relations, one Jonathan Frakes. The film broadcast was not the true footage of the autopsy, but rather a high-budget recreation to show for a wider public audience what had happened. The director claims he had seen the original footage from the 1947 autopsy, but couldn't release it. He claims that he spliced shots from the original footage into the faked footage to provide some clarity, but didn't tell us what was real and what wasn't. And he insists that the video wasn't faked, but rather a reconstruction for educational purposes. Now, despite only being a reenactment, the special effects of the footage are remarkable. It does look pretty believable. It was helmed by industry legend Stan Winston, the special effects warlock responsible for bringing the Predator and the aliens alike. The alien body in the footage was filled with sheep guts, chicken entrails, pig knuckles, and raspberry jam to create the illusion of an alien filled to bursting with foreign organs, and probably tasted halfway decent with a little bit of soy sauce. So was the footage ever actually real, or was it all just cooked up to sweep up viewers on a dwindling TV season? The director maintains always that what he saw was real, he just wasn't allowed to show it, and did his best to show us what happened. There's an interesting discussion to be had there, I think. Was he just showing how easy it is to fraud something, manipulate people into believing whatever they see? Who's to say if the true footage ever did come out, we would even believe it? We would probably just dismiss it the exact same way. But if you want to see way more scary footage, real or not, dismissible or provable, we have got loads and loads of that for you to enjoy. So click through, stay a while, and get scared all night long with top 5 scary. I'll be here the whole night and in this building. Number 4, Edgar Mitchell. The thing about most alien sightings is that they don't always come from the most reputable of sources. You know, it's usually a random internet post, maybe a blurry shot from an iPhone kind of thing, posted on Reddit with a caption like, "What is this?" Or, you know, it's somebody who's walking home late at night and saw some lights in the sky and didn't know it was a plane. And while I think we should respect the voice of the people and the common man, it'd be nice if we got someone with a little bit of clout to their name. Well, luckily we've got more than a few astronauts who've seen bizarre things up there and are willing to share their stories. Edgar Mitchell is one such man. He's stood on the face of the moon before, he helped save the Apollo 14 mission from becoming a disaster, he's the 6th man to ever walk on the moon, and he is a lifelong defender and believer in aliens and UFOs. Mitchell claims that he's seen things that prove existence of life outside the planet. First and foremost, he is a firm believer of the Roswell conspiracy, and he insists that all those stories are true and that the military has been hiding the truth behind what happened at Roswell for decades, adding on to say that it was buried, and the military propagated a covert movement to discredit everything that had happened at Roswell, to deter people from taking any news about UFOs and flying saucers seriously, dismissing it forever as tinfoil hat stuff. Mitchell claims that NASA believes the public wouldn't be able to handle the truth. Come on, we're ready. We're ready, we're all ready, we're big enough now to know the truth. It's like the tooth fairy, we're grown up, we know where the quarters are coming from, just tell us. And Edgar Mitchell's been trying to just tell us. In 2004, Edgar Mitchell told a Floridan newspaper that he knew there was a secret cabal inside the American government that took in and studied alien corpses, and that after JFK was removed from office, the group did not answer to the president and didn't include the commander-in-chief in their briefings. He was quoted saying, "They all know that UFOs are real. The question is where they are coming from. A shadowy organization existing outside the president's control with insider knowledge on aliens and trying to suppress the public." Did Mr. Mitchell just casually confirm the Men in Black are real? Now, NASA themselves obviously denied all of Mitchell's statements, but obviously they would. What government is going to throw their hands up and admit that they have been slicing up alien bodies on the side?
Number 3, The Sacrament. The Sacrament is a 2013 American found footage horror thriller film written and directed by T. West. The actors play Vice journalists who document their co-worker's attempt to locate his sister after she joins a reclusive religious commune. The film's plot is based on the real-life events of the Jonestown Massacre of 1978. Patrick, a fashion photographer, receives a letter from his sister inviting him to visit Eden Parish, a utopian community founded by a religious leader of some sort. When Patrick investigates, he discovers that they've moved to a very secluded compound only accessible by helicopter. Intrigued, Patrick's co-workers, reporter, and a cameraman suggest a documentary on the topic. Issues first arise when they meet the guides at the airfield and they're taken to meet the father. After settling in, the two attempt to find members to interview. Several of the people tell stories of how the father have saved them and given them hope. When the filmmakers relax, they discover a group that wishes to leave claiming brainwashing and abuse. They are taken hostage, and father forces everyone to drink cyanide-laced drinks. The two filmmakers flee to the helicopter and escape. Now, not spoiling anything about the film, but it's actually based around real events of the Jonestown Massacre. The brainwashing techniques, the misguided plans with fun and partying, and of course, all that Kool-Aid stuff. The movie really gives the audience the weight and misdirection of comfort and community between shared minds and the danger of one collective mind. Great acting, really scary. Of course, the Vice intro really lays into the weight of it possibly being true. What do you think? Does this film do a good job at representing the eeriness of cults from our past? Because I think it does. Number 2, Area 51. You know I'm the tinfoil hat around here on this channel, so you know I'm gonna pull from some of my alien collection. They're my favorite, okay? For those of you who aren't up to date on the UAP phenomenon, Google up and dive in. Yeah, dive in and do your homework. Dive. You'll get it. Area 51 is a 2015 American found footage sci-fi horror film written and directed by Oren Peli and Christopher Denham. The film was produced by Jason Blum under his Blumhouse Productions banner and was released in a limited release and through video on demand by Paramount and Surge. Little bit of a hard find, but it's out there. It's a good one. Check it out. Basically, 3 close friends attend a party in which during the night, one friend vanishes. Classic. Driving home on a dark, secluded road, of course, the 2 friends almost run over and find said missing friend, alone in the street, now in some sort of a daze. After this, that friend is now obsessed with everything aliens and particularly Area 51. He spends months planning to infiltrate Area 51 to uncover its otherworldly secrets. He recruits his friends and together they sneak onto the military base. Exploring the base, the trio discover a lab containing anti-gravitic materials and a liquid substance. They also find an alien spacecraft in a hangar. The 3 reach the S4 level of Area 51, which stores the most complex secrets and experiments. The base suddenly loses gravity, revealing to them that they are now on board some sort of craft. After some close calls and monstrous chase scenes, some of the friends escape and eventually, spoiler alert, they are finally captured and abducted. In a post-credits scene, we stumble across the friend's camcorder, which is still somehow recording. Spooky. All those horror movie batteries are amazing, you know? The batteries just last forever in these movies. Couple things here first. It's not a real movie, obviously, but it does touch on a ton of apparent real subject matter. The exotic metals. There is proof that Bob Lazar could have worked on a compound called Element 115, which was from apparent down saucer crafts. S4 is actually the name of the grid and base code name for Area 51. Look, I don't know how they shot the scenes where they're breaking into the fenced off perimeter, because that looks pretty legit. And that'll get you in some trouble, 100%. If you like this topic, Google up Groom Lake, Element 115, Bob Lazar, read up a little on that, and then watch or revisit this film. I bet you it becomes 10 times more scary. And the number 1 spot, The Fourth Kind. And of course for my number 1 spot I chose the abduction movie that literally keeps me awake at night. I ask myself, why was this film made? And for who? In the 90s, a famous psychologist named Dr. John Mack made the jump from ordinary psychological conditions, diagnosing patients, especially children with all sorts of mental illness diagnoses. Then he made a quite significant jump to researching abductees and their stories and experiences. Yeah, he was convinced through his work that this is a real phenomenon. Yeah, Google it. It's actually terrifying. Now, for the film. Sorry, I kind of had to set the stage there for you. The Fourth Kind is a 2009 sci-fi psychological horror film directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi, starring Mila Jovovich. The title is derived from the expansion of J. Allen Hynek's classification of close encounters with aliens, in which the Fourth Kind nails. Google Project Blue Book. Yeah. This guy's all real. The film is a pseudo-documentary recreating true events that occurred apparently up in Alaska. The psychologist uses hypnosis to uncover memories of alien abduction from her patients and finds evidence suggesting that she herself could be an abductee. At the beginning of the film, Jovovich informs the audience that she will be playing a character based on a real person named Abigail Tyler, and that the film will feature archival footage of the real Abigail Tyler at various points throughout the film. Yeah, both of these are not real, thank the gods, but are based around all true testimonies and apparently cases studied by Mack circa 80s to 2000s, surrounding abduction cases from people under hypnosis. Yeah, this movie is my number 1, not because of the obvious fake documentary style scenes, but for the fact that I've done my homework, people, and this is based around a lot of real stuff. Yeah, ancient Sumerian text, real psychologists writing real books, the thousands of apparent abduction accounts from police officers, children, teachers, doctors. Kinda makes you think, doesn't it? Look, I highly recommend this film. I think it's a true homage to those who actually believe they were abducted. Do some of your own homework. Give it a watch. Trust me. Number 5, Amityville. Believe it or not, there's actually 39 film adaptations made surrounding this case. Yeah, it's the OG case. The first crack at getting this terrifying formula down that we all love today. The Amityville Horror. Yes, the infamous haunting that took place on November 13th, 1974 at 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville, New York. Well, in some versions 108 Ocean Avenue. Places like that get really popular, you know? The Amityville Horror is a book by American author Jay Anson, published 1977, and it's also the basis of one of the scariest movies ever released from 1979 onwards. The paranormal experiences by the Lutz family has just led to great movies, you know? Spooky stories. It unfortunately has also led to controversy, lawsuits, name defacing, and of course murders and life sentences. But that was before all the media stuff. Hey, it was gruesome times. The LA Times said it was actually more hideously frightening than The Exorcist because it actually happened. DeFeo was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 6 life sentences. All of his parole appeals have been denied. For nearly 13 months after the murders, the house remained empty until it was bought by the Lutz family. And cue terrifying movie. When the Lutzes moved in, the furniture from the DeFeo family remained intact from the night of the murders. Yeah, they actually didn't know. They just thought it came furnished. That's a ripoff also, I'd be pissed. New couch smell? Nope, just ghost plasma. Yuck. The Warrens' most famous case was the Amityville haunting. This is where 6 members of the DeFeo family were found dead in their beds in 1974. A year later, the Lutzes moved in, and 28 days of this, basically. Also, let us know in the comments down below which Ed and Lorraine case scares the bejesus out of you the most. Like, which movie won't you watch, you know? I don't do dolls, dude. Annabelle gets me every time, I swear to God. Number 4, The Haunted. In 1991, the works of the late great Warrens was finally approached again after years of their demonic work had slowly and surely began to surface. They began fighting the good fight since the 40s, remember? With the success of the Amityville Horror in the late 70s and the popularity it brought to the demonology topic within the US, the Warrens' name and reputation was finally appreciated, and they gifted us another gem of a story to film. This 2-hour, made-for-TV film based on the horrific events that took place within the Smurl home in the 80s. The Haunted, released by 20th Century Fox, earned itself 2 Golden Globe nominations. The case file of the Smurls' haunted house in Pennsylvania in the 1970s was infamous for not only demons, but a certain type of evil entity, the incubus and the succubus. This demonic pair usually haunts a sleeping person, and their possession is usually based around a more explicit manner of haunting. Yeah, Google it up, you'll get it. This film does a semi-tasteful 90s job at expressing what the Smurls were actually working with. Spoiler alert, it's pretty messed up. Demons almost quote-unquote breeding with those it possesses. The Smurls' version of their story was the subject of a 1986 paperback book titled The Haunted, of course, where this movie of the same name gets its inspiration from. The Warrens are introduced and explored for the first time in this film. Like many of the film adaptations, the Warrens are first seen performing college lectures into various hauntings. Lorraine is portrayed by Diane Baker. Ed is played by Stephen Markle. A pretty 90s feel to it, you know? Grainy, it's a little campy at times, but it's the first formula to this huge film franchise. Isn't it cool that Ed and Lorraine have been part of the modern horror scene for like 70 years? Their cases have been a part of the horror landscape way before Juan developed his Conjuring universe. Whether you believe in these cases or not, it's clear that they've made an impact.
In at 3, Satan's Bridge. To begin, this video is titled Satan's Bridge Footage, 1999 to 2000, and the uploader writes, I quote, video documentation from the year 2000 of large amounts of dead animals placed in a ditch near State Line Bridge, aka Satan's Bridge, in Cascade, Virginia. Spooky stuff. So the video shows pretty much exactly that. A guy called Chris begins filming a bunch of carcasses amongst a pile of litter. He explains that he watched the bridge for several nights but never saw anyone disposing of any carcasses. Theorized that it could be someone disposing of roadkill, but could also be the remains of animals used in a ritualistic ceremony, considering the condition of the carcasses as well as where the remains were found. You know, under Satan's Bridge. Perhaps it's even students from the local high school experimenting with satanic practice. Either way, the footage is creepy and quite disturbing. Take a look.
It could also be speculated that the animals were killed in some sort of ritual sacrifice, considering it is called Satan's Bridge.
Moving on to number 2, Abandoned Building. Now, I have no idea where or when this footage was discovered, but the beginning of the video simply says it was found on a VHS tape with 1999 scrawled on it in pen. That sounds safe and wonderful. I'm already creeped out. The video begins with a beautiful scenic shot of some trees. The person filming is clearly inept with a camera, so it gives you some serious vertigo, unfortunately. They wander around for a little while, filming a creepy looking building before heading towards an even creepier wooden shack. That's when things begin to get intense. becomes loud and muffled, almost like you're entering the gates of hell, or moments away from being possessed by a demon. Subjective, really. The footage then cuts back to the first building we saw before we quickly zoom in on a blacked out window, and of course, cue the gates of hell audio once again. They then head towards the doors of one of the abandoned buildings before the screen begins to violently glitch out, revealing a figure in the distance. It gets closer. The person filming starts running, heading up the stairs and into one of the buildings, and a few more glitches and intense audio cues later, the guy seemingly escapes. But I want you to take a look back at the shot of the shadowy figure. Is it just me, or is that Slender Man? I mean, really, this whole video kind of reminds me of the Slender video game, so, you know, Slender's on topic, it's trending and shit.
And finally, in at number 1, arson! In Redwood City, California in 1987, the town was plagued by a series of brutal arson fires. The police had no leads, no motive, and to top it off, there was never any evidence left behind by the culprit. So, the police closed the case.
However, 2 years later, a local farmer discovered a creepy videotape containing footage of a few of the arson fires, and the creepy voice of a man reveling in what he had done. The voice is quiet and often nonsensical, but it's clear in his voice that he is overjoyed at the chaos that he caused. He watches each house burning until they are complete nothingness. How bleak.
Very bleak.
Very bleak.
Sad times.
Yeah.
The police ended up releasing the tape to television in hopes of garnering some leads or persons of interest. One person even going on to describe that the flames and the carnage are the equivalent of a sexual turn-on for the arsonist.
Gross.
After releasing the footage, the police managed to track down a group of teenagers responsible for the heinous crimes. And creepier still, they discovered more tapes.
It showed the teenagers had filmed newspaper headlines of every crime they committed, which added up to over 60 other arsons. They also recorded themselves dressed up as werewolves and vampires in a very frightening clip.
The arsonists also taped themselves as werewolves and vampires.
Number 5, The Conjuring. The Conjuring is a 2013 horror film directed by James Wan, written by Chad and Carrie Hayes. It is the first film in the Conjuring universe franchise and also based on real events surrounding the Perron family's demonic experiences. Ed was a World War II vet and a former police officer who became a self-professed demonologist. Lorraine, a self-claimed clairvoyant, making them the best demonic duo out there. In 1952, Ed and Lorraine founded the New England Society for Psychic Research. They quickly gained notoriety as respected investigators after this case. The Perrons. In 1971, the Perron family moved into a 14-room farmhouse in Rhode Island where Carolyn, Roger, and their 5 daughters began to notice odd things happening almost immediately. First, missing items, salt shaker, broom, then some ghostly sightings. Then, well, you'll see. It was discovered that the home had experienced some previous sinister owners, self-immolation, deadly accidents, and of course, murder in the attic. One violent and destructive spirit named Bathsheba. Quote, whoever the spirit was, she perceived herself to be the mistress of this house, and she resented the competition of my mother posed for that position. Andrea Perron, the oldest daughter. Bathsheba Sherman, who lived on the Perrons' property circa 1800s, was rumored to have been a Satanist and involved in the murder of a neighbor. According to the oldest daughter, Andrea, there were numerous spirits that lived on the premises. The smell of rotten meat, beds levitating, and of course, the dirt-covered, abysmally cold basement. The Perrons asked the Warrens to come in more than 10 separate times on 10 separate occasions to help out their ghost problem. Lorraine conducted a seance to attempt to contact the spirits that were possessing them, to which during the seance Carolyn Perron was possessed. The family swear that she was speaking in tongues and even rising from the ground, sitting in a chair. Andrea said, my mother began to speak a language not of this world in a voice not of her own. Then her chair levitated and she was thrown across the room. Yeah, that's all the ingredients you need for an amazing horror movie universe to me. Terrifying. Number 4, Annabelle. The infamous Annabelle. We know her. The most haunted doll on Earth. First appearing in The Conjuring in 2013, then Annabelle Creation, then Annabelle Comes Home. I'm just waiting for part 4. Annabelle vs. Anderson Silva, UFC 279 live from Las Vegas. Yo, I'm straight up punting a haunted doll if it runs up on me, I'll tell you that for free. The film was inspired by the story of a doll named Annabelle, told by Ed and Lorraine Warren after obtaining and ridding its evil from its toy-like body. The doll is apparently responsible for 2 near-death experiences, 1 fatal accident, and a string of demonic activity. The doll's origins come from a gift to a young nurse named Donna from her mother for her 28th birthday. Donna brought it back to her apartment she shared with a roommate. Pretty normal Raggedy Ann doll. Then the two began to notice she'd move around on her own. They even started finding notes left around saying, "Help me," written on parchment paper, which they had no clue to even where to buy that or find that. Before long, they called in some help from a medium who insisted that the doll was harboring a spirit who had lived and perished on the grounds prior to their building being built. Medium called the priest called his father called Ed and Lorraine. So yeah, this thing is like haunted. You know when priests are like, oh God, no! Yeah, that's usually not a really good sign. Spirits do not possess inanimate objects like houses or toys. They possess people. An inhuman spirit can attach itself to a place or object, and this is what occurred in the Annabelle case. This spirit manipulated the doll and created the illusion of it being alive in order to get recognition. Truly, the spirit was not looking to stay attached to the doll, it was looking to possess a human host. Thank the gods, Ed and Lorraine locked her up in the occult museum where she lays to this day, just waiting.
Number 3 on this list is The Possession. This next clip is from 2 decades ago in Portugal. The YouTuber Chills has actually covered this video before, and even he is pretty terrified of it. The video was filmed on an old camcorder back in 2001. The quality is pretty atrocious, which can be expected from an old camera. The video is centered around several young boys hanging out. It starts off with them just innocently playing, but then they end up doing something they really shouldn't have. They try to contact the dead. As we've seen time and time again, regardless of how you attempt to do this, it usually turns out pretty bad. And that's pretty much what happens here with these boys. In the clip that I'm about to show you, one of the boys gets possessed by some type of demon and falls to the ground convulsing. Eventually the boy gets up and he's no longer himself. His voice is not his own and the words he's saying are not the ones that he would normally say. It's clear that he's been possessed by some type of demon. Now this video of theirs is almost 40 minutes long and that possession took place at the 5-minute mark. After he gets possessed, he runs out of the home and the lights turn off. The kids are obviously super frightened and don't know what's going on. What ultimately happened to this guy and the demon that possessed him, we may never know for sure. Number 2 on this list is The Masked Man. This is really chilling stuff and was apparently released by the police in an attempt to find the people involved. Once again, we have a clip centered around 2 boys and once again, they go missing. This time though it happens in 2005 in Croatia, and we also get a far better view of the man responsible for the disappearances in this one as well. The clip starts out innocently enough with 2 lads just messing around in the park. At one point though, they see a dark figure in the distance. At this time though, they aren't on high alert and don't think much of it. Fast forward a bit though, and he starts to approach them.
Dobar daj. Nemam pojma, daj ga šutni, ja ne znaš. Daj ga šutni.
Neću se. Mislim da je pijan, neš.
Okej, mislim da idemo. A on mi odavde.
Ti mu vidio facu? Nema ga, Steven.
Pa naravno da sam vidio facu, vidiš.
Nisam skužio, čekaj, kaj je bilo?
So at first, they didn't think it was anything, but then the creepy man came after them. This isn't the end of the story though, as the clip continues. The guys are now in a different area recapping what just happened. Soon afterwards though, the man shows up again, and now the gents are starting to really get concerned. They run away and get to an apartment building. This is where we believe the disappearance actually occurs.
Creepy. Koji kat?
5. kat.
Just for a split second we saw him. The man with the mask right in the elevator waiting for the guys. No one knows what happened to these guys and who that masked man was. All we have is this tape and a very sad and scary story. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Paris Catacombs. The Paris Catacombs is one of the creepiest collection of tunnels in the entire world. They were built many years ago and have thousands of dead remains from people back in the day. Many people over the years have speculated on them being extremely haunted, and video footage like this definitely helps add fuel to that fire. The following footage was found on a video recorder deep in the catacombs several years ago.
It's very bizarre. These arrows point in a direction. Occasionally also, he stops to photograph roomfuls of bones, which means that he's very deep inside the catacombs. So basically, he's filming what he's seeing very deep inside the catacombs, other than the point of view shots or pictures of human bones. The catacombs for centuries.
So my dude is deep inside the catacombs, as the narrator of that clip says. All of a sudden though, things start going wrong.
Decide which way to run among all the many different corridors. He's running faster and faster and faster, deeper and deeper into the catacombs. And all of a sudden,
now we don't actually know why he started running, but he just did. Clearly something was chasing him that we can't see on the camera. This is truly all we know though. What was after him and if he managed to survive, that's anyone's guess.
Number 5, 11BX137. A gadget blog named Gadgets with 2 Z's got international viral attention after they received an exceedingly strange, mysterious CD sent to their address. The blank gold CD has a series of letters and numbers written on it, and no other markers denoting what it could be. The contents of the CD when played are very confusing to say the least, strange and downright horrifying. A hooded figure dressed like a bubonic plague doctor, standing menacingly in what looks like a burnt out, destroyed remnant of a building. He just sorta appears to be standing and communicating in some kind of code. Wandering, posing, revealing a blinking light emanating from the palm of his hand. Its hand, maybe? This thing does kind of have SCP-049 vibes. After about a minute, the hooded figure faces the wall, where he stays for the remainder of the video. But where the video goes from creepy to I might never sleep again levels of horrifying, is that when you run the audio through a spectrogram, a fancy word for a visualization of sound, images begin to appear of tortured bodies and a chilling threat spelling out, "You are already dead." That's the kind of thing you'd love to receive in the mail unmarked. Internet sleuths the net over came together to try and uncover and unmask this nefarious figure in the terrifying video. Now, if it's any comfort for you, the images found in the spectrogram appear to be excerpts from low-rent horror movies, and people found screen captures that matched up pretty well. Speculation ran wild as to what this video could possibly mean. Was there a secret message or a threat behind its cryptic codes? Was it just an advertisement for something? Or just a bored artist trying to get somebody's attention the only way he knew how? Well, eventually, someone did come forward. A man by the name of Parker Warner Wright claims to be the plague doctor in the video, and said the reason for the video was nothing more than an art project to entertain and confuse people. Like most cryptic scary artists, when he was asked about why the video was made, all he had to say was, "I see my work as waves on the oceans." Thanks. Number 4, I feel fantastic. Now, if you're a student in horrifying, unexplained YouTube clips and legends, perhaps you've been unfortunate enough to run into this one before. But if you haven't, I'm sorry. It's been years since I Feel Fantastic first graced the YouTube algorithm, and yet we're still no closer to understanding, uncovering what's going on here. The video is pretty short and sweet, but I doubt you'll actually be able to finish it. It's a mannequin-looking android named Tara, singing her little song for the camera. Now, she's got the chutzpah down pat, but her natural stage presence could use a little bit of work, maybe her tone too, because she kind of sings discordantly and completely terrifying. It sounds like the kind of thing that you would hear a few minutes before you wake up strapped to an ice-cold slab operating table in a dank basement. The robot, we know, was built by John Bergeron, and that's about all we know. He envisioned his beloved Tara as being an android pop sensation, kind of like what I think Grimes might be. And I really don't want to shut down Tara's career before it's blossomed, but she's got some serious hurdles to solve first. The incredibly unsettling nature of the video caused speculators to run wild with theories about what they were seeing. The most extreme ones go so far as to suggest John was a murderer, and Tara was a mannequin wearing the clothes of his victims. Some suggest he's just a very strange man who wanted a singing companion in his home. In all the years since this clip went viral, we've never got a follow-up on this bizarre video, and I doubt we're ever gonna get more answers on this one. I wonder if Tara is still out there, if she's still singing proudly, or if she's rotting in a basement somewhere. I just hope she's still practicing, you know? Number 3, the first flying saucer. Now, while the Roswell, New Mexico incident was the UFO sighting that really shot alien sightings into the mainstream public consciousness and kind of defined what alien sightings look like, you know, the idea of little gray or green men and flying saucers, it was obviously far from the first alien sighting ever recorded, just kind of the most popular. But not even a few weeks earlier, there was actually another famous sighting, and one that's thought to be the progenitor for sightings of UFOs being thought of as flying saucers. Kenneth Arnold was an American aviator. Unlike most UFO sightings, Kenneth never changed his story once, never made any kind of surrealist, outrageous claims, and stuck to the same story for the rest of his life. He saw weird saucers in the air he couldn't explain. Well, let's take a listen. It was 1947, June the 24th, weeks before Roswell, which occurred in July 1947. Mr. Arnold was flying his private plane over Washington by Mount Rainier. Rainier? I've never been to Washington, so you guys gotta forgive me. He was looking for a recently downed transport plane that had a $5,000 bounty the US military was offering in exchange for its finding. As he was approaching the summit, Arnold noticed that he saw 9 blinding flashes of light hovering up above. When looking in closer, they resembled ships but looked like discs. Arnold said that he saw them flying in a bizarre pattern, with each positioned diagonally together, reporting that it reminded him of the tail of a kite. Arnold was an aviation expert and said that the craft seemed far more advanced than anything human beings were capable of at the time, moving at unbelievable speeds. He landed at a nearby airport and told crew that he saw something bizarre he couldn't rationalize, worried that perhaps it could have been missiles being fired at Washington. Reporters interviewed him and he was pressed for several questions, but no one could corroborate or figure out just exactly what it was he had seen. Arnold was questioned by the Army as well, who took his claims remarkably seriously, as he was a fairly respected and reputable man, and there wasn't really the same culture surrounding aliens and UFOs, and as such, his claim was met with genuine worry. No one ever figured it out, but the story of them being saucers, combined with the saucers seen in New Mexico, led to the public perception of UFOs picturing them as saucers for the better part of 60 years, pretty much to this day. Number 2, the Travis Walton abduction. Now, abduction stories can sometimes be a little much to believe, even for those with the most open minds who want to believe. You know, they all seem kind of the same. It's somebody you maybe can't trust driving home late at night, saw something strange, they woke up in a blinding light room and they got poked and prodded by little gray men. Well, Travis Walton's story is not dissimilar to that. It's pretty out there even by abduction standards, but it's too juicy to pass up, so pop open those ears. In 1975, Travis Walton was working as a logger and was facing a fairly routine day, 6 other loggers and him driving around in the forest, when they saw something incredibly bright shining at them through the treetops. One of the men claimed it looked like a flattened disc, a saucer of sorts even. Walton stepped out of the bed of the truck to investigate and was struck by some invisible force that knocked him backwards. The rest of the crew panicked and drove away. Huge faux pas, I'll say, leaving your coworker behind after being struck by an alien, but okay, you think you know somebody. When the crew returned, Walton had vanished. Walton awoke and had thought that he'd been taken to a hospital because he'd found himself in a blindingly bright room and could hear people moving around him. But it wasn't until he got a good look at his doctors that he knew something was amiss. 3 feet tall, with brown, quarter-sized pupils, with marshmallow-like skin. Walton freaked out, obviously, as one would probably do, and was swiftly restrained by his captors. He tried to fight them off, but was greeted by a tall creature he said resembled a humanoid, but was masked by an intimidating helmet, a kind of Darth Vader looking thing. The masked creature took Walton and escorted him back into the operating room and put a translucent mask over his face. And Walton drifted out of consciousness again, unsure if anything was real. The next thing he remembers is walking alongside a highway as if nothing had ever happened. He eventually finds his way to a phone and called his brother-in-law, who panically asked what had happened. It turned out that Walton had been gone for 5 days, and he was untraceable. Search parties had formed looking for him, sent dogs and choppers tracked him from the woods, but no one could find any sign of him, as if he'd blinked out of existence and then blinked right back. Travis swore what happened to him was real, a real abduction, and he's maintained that story ever since that fateful week in 1975. Now, if you think this story is fascinating and you're upset that nobody recorded any of it and there wasn't any footage of what Travis described, well, the tragic news is, yeah, it doesn't exist. You can, however, watch a 90s sci-fi movie that is directly based off Travis's case called Fire in the Sky. I've never seen it, but I'm sure it's on Amazon Prime or something. It's got Robert Patrick from Terminator 2. He's in it. He's a good actor. Yeah, check it out. And number 1, the Rendlesham Forest Incident. The incident and conspiracy at Roswell, New Mexico is one of the most famous events in UFO culture. This incident is considered England's Roswell, the Rendlesham Forest Incident. Few other alien sightings can boast this many government witnesses, memos, and strange proof. Let's paint the scene. It was December 26, 1980. Oh, nice and festive and Christmas themed. Surrounding Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, England was a series of Air Force bases and US Army personnel. 2 of these stationed officers were John Burroughs and Jim Peniston. On this fateful night, the 2 of them were concerned by shining bright lights that were seen flying above the base, worrying that it could perhaps have been a threat or a spy plane scouting out their location. Burroughs said that he thought the lights looked like a beacon summoning people over, and over 40 people on the base all agreed, reporting seeing the lights and sharing their concerns. So the 2 men were sent over to Rendlesham Forest to investigate. In their official document, the 2 men claimed that they had seen a strange, shining, triangular object that was pulsing with colored lights. Neither of the men recognized it as an aircraft from any military across the globe. The craft had seemed far too advanced for anything of this world. Black and made out of a smooth, opaque glass. It didn't appear to have any wings or landing gear or even really any methods of propulsion or exhaust. The men describe it as covered in hieroglyphic-like symbols etched onto the hull of the vessel all over. Neither of the men could identify the glyphs as anything they'd seen before. Duh, it's alien stuff. As the craft touched down, nearby animals were being driven into a frenzy, and the airmen's equipment started malfunctioning, communications equipment cutting out. The 2 personnel could no longer call back to the base. Now, not even 2 days later, the Rendlesham UFO was spotted again. 2 days later, the same strange lights were seen hovering above the bases surrounding Rendlesham. This time, the crews came significantly more prepared, waiting and ready for the UFO to make contact. The patrol group had found depressions in the ground, and their Geiger counters started blowing up with noise. And the group had known that they'd come across where the UFO had been. And then, right on time, the patrol saw the same craft flying above overhead, disappearing into the night. Years passed, and we're still no closer to understanding just what occurred with those faithful sightings. And we may never know.